Hi, this is Jack Stanley, and I wanted to talk about American coinage. And I wanted to talk about what is on our coins. Now, over the years, I have talked about this to a degree. And I don't know if I've gone into too much detail of why. But on our coins, and you will see it, it'll say, "In God we trust." Now, my question is, how did we come up with this logo, "In God we trust"? And in conversation with people, a lot of people say, well, in the formation of this country, that was a very strong feeling. Well, let's take a look at coins from the formation of this country. There's one thing that isn't on those coins, is "In God we trust." In fact, God is nowhere on our coinage or on the continental bills of the time. Nothing. Where does that come from then? We have to go well into our history before we ever see it. In fact, it isn't until 1864, 154 years ago now, that the term "In God we trust" first appears on our coinage. And it came out in a very obscure coin today. It was the 2-cent piece. A lot of people say a 2-cent piece. Yes, we actually had 2-cent piece. We actually did a 3-cent piece for a little while. Of course, we had a 1-cent piece, and we had a half-cent piece too. And that was until the early 1850s. So who came up with this idea? Well, it was pushed by a number of individuals that we should have a statement about God on our coinage. And of course, our founding fathers wanted nothing to do with that. And it was rejected by many. And it wasn't until we had a Secretary of the Treasury, a very pious individual. His name was Salmon Chase. And Salmon Chase was an extremely pious religious man. And through influences of people that he talked to, he put that logo on our coinage with the 2-cent piece. It would take a number of years before we go on to all of our coinage. And a lot of people were not happy with it. And there were reasons for it. They said, well, why do we trust a God? Well, you had people that were on every different side of the fence here. Even Theodore Roosevelt was angry as all hell about that logo and tried to get it removed. And he couldn't. And now, here in the year 2018, every coin has it. And even when coins were redone and redesigned, there was a clamoring to make sure "In God we trust" was on the coinage. And many people believe that it goes all the way back to the founding of this country. That is not at all the case. It is a 19th century addition to our coinage. And what's also amazing is on our bills, our currency, there was not a word or a peep of "In God we trust" for many, many, many years. It wasn't until the 1950s that "In God we trust" came on our bills. Interesting thing, don't you think? Kind of fascinating. But what I find also rather fascinating is it was in the 1950s that we changed a lot of things and put God into a lot of things. There was somewhat of a religious revival, one might say. The Pledge of Allegiance, which went originally, when it came out in the 1890s, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That is the way it was said until the 1950s, when we inserted under God. So it's an interesting thing when you think about our coinage, when you think about our money system, you think about our devotion to a deity. And so on our coinage, we honor our deity, which is God. And of course, other countries don't do that. Some do. Some have a religious reference. But it's an interesting thing when you think about it. When the whole idea of this country was founded, the last thing we wanted was anything that would have a religious bent to it. They wanted to be a separation of church and state. And many of our founding fathers, if they came back to life and looked at our coinage and saw "In God We Trust" on our coinage, would drop dead again, because it would shock the hell out of them, because that was so foreign from the ideals of the formation of this country and its ideals between religion, deities, and the government. So I just thought I'd talk about this a little bit and share with you this bit of somewhat forgotten history. Thank you.